Hello and welcome to the Sports 2.0 network for our look at the horse racing action for this weekend. I won't be doing it alone. I'm joined by my partner in crime, Ace. Ace, how you doing?
Great. How about yourself?
I'm very good, thank you. Very good. So without any further ado, let's get straight into it. We're going to start with the Haskell Stakes, which is at Monmouth Park this weekend. It's a Grade 1. It's also winning you in for the Breeders' Cup Classic. And it's over 1 1/8 miles for the 3-year-olds. I must be honest, Ace, I've got a I'm pretty sure on this one, but I would love to know what you think first.
Well, first and foremost, Haskell, big weekend for racing. Summer racing is back at Monmouth. Don't forget at Monmouth Park, we cannot use the whip. So we are just hand riding these horses all the way home. So believe it or not, the track has played very fair due to it. You know, you'd think that if you couldn't whip a horse, you'd probably want a front runner, but they've been winning from all over the place. I think there is a complete mistake on the odds in this race, and I don't understand. The one following C is 3-1. He did not partake in any of the Triple Crown races. He broke his maiden and won an allowance. Other than that, he hasn't done a thing. 3-1 morning line. While you have some other very good horses, you have the soon-to-be maybe Kentucky Derby winner Mandaloun coming back here, 2-1 for Brad Cox and Florent Geroux. You've got Hot Rod Charlie, who's the morning line favorite, who, what has he done wrong? Absolutely nothing, taking a great second to Essential Quality in the Belmont. And then you've got Midnight Bourbon, who took second in the Preakness, and he's 9-2. I think this is the chalkiest of chalk races I've ever seen, in all honesty. I think Hot Rod Charlie the 4 is the class of the field. I think Mandaloun will be right with him every step of the way. And I think Midnight Bourbon, who is somehow the 4th favorite, is going to be right there for 3rd place. What do you think?
I think we've spoken about Hot Rod Charlie before, and I am so, excuse the pun, hot on Hot Rod Charlie. Like, I think he's going to get a Grade 1 winner. It's just a case of when it's going to come. He's so consistent. He's a horse that's hard not to like. Like, he gives everything. Every time he's out there, he gives every ounce of what he has. And like you said, without the whip being able to be used at Monmouth Park, it's going to suit him because he has that kind of character about him where he just wants to win. Like, he knows why he's there. He knows what he needs to do. Obviously, he come a bit unstuck in the Kentucky Derby, but 3rd was not the worst. The Belmont Stakes, like, I was amazed with how good he was at Belmont. That I was looking at his fractional times were ridiculous, and it's just on that occasion he come up against such a good horse and Essential Quality, but there's still with Hot Rod Charlie. I wouldn't rule him out of winning the Breeders' Cup later on in the year. Obviously, if he wins this, then he's in it anyway. But I think what it takes for him to win the Classic is one of the ones that are highly considered to not be at 100%, and he will win it.
I'm completely with you. Hot Rod Charlie's a special horse. When he won the Louisiana Derby, his ownership probably gave the best speech I've ever seen. It's on YouTube. Check it out, about how he's just flying on air, so happy that he gets to go to Kentucky. And to your point, did nothing wrong in Kentucky. Ran a very great race. Belmont lost to a freak in Essential Quality, who he beat in the Derby but had a ton of issues. I don't see how this horse, especially, like, we're all cutting back in distance too. So we're going away from the classic distances of 1.25 and 1.5 miles. This horse is so naturally fast that he's going to be, if he breaks at all, going to be first around the turn. If you can get 6-5, which is his morning line odds, pound it. And we hate to play favorites here, as if anyone listened last week, boy, were we wrong about some of them. But this one, to me, I am with you. If Hot Rod Charlie does not win this race, he's going to come in 2nd or 3rd. And it just really depends on if the Brad Cox, the Mandaloun is really a good horse, or if Midnight Bourbon, Steve Asmussen's horse, can hang with these guys. But it's such a great race. I'm so excited for it. Saratoga's back, Delmar's back, Monmouth is running. It's a great time for horses.
I'm really excited for it too, but I must be honest, I would be so disappointed if Hot Rod Charlie doesn't win here. If he doesn't win this Grade 1, I'm not sure where it's going to come. Do have reservations about Midnight Bourbon. I feel like he was at his very, very best in the Preakness, and this is just this is an extra step up. So he has to be that plus more to kind of hang with these guys. You did kind of write off Following Sea straight away. I did see he's got back-to-back triple-digit speed figures from his last 2 races, but how, because they were in allowances, how does that kind of rank up for you? Is that just kind of like, it's not the same as like what these other guys are doing?
Yeah, it's just, I mean, and not only that, but they've been at 6 furlongs and 6.5 furlongs. We're going at a mile and an eighth. We're gonna go around 2 turns for the first time with him. And I get it. He's fast. He's fast. But in all honesty, he hasn't shown the speed that makes me say to myself, okay, this guy can hang on after going and dueling speeds for that long of time. Very impressive that, he's worked in 6 furlongs in under 110, 6.5 and 115. But I I need to see a lot more from a horse in this caliber of a race to be 3-1 odds. Like if this was a 2-year-old race, I'd be like, okay, makes sense. I get it. But it's not. It's a 3-year-old race, and there's a lot of better horses with a lot better experience. So now watch, he's going to run off the page and somehow beat everyone, and we're going to be talking about how wrong I am. But you know what? Like, I get it. Great connections, Rosario, Pletcher, Spendthrift. I'm just going to say, not yet. Too big of a step too fast, in my opinion.
I think it's the price as well that put a lot of people off. Like, there's a couple in there which is 30s, a couple of, like, there's one that's 20. Like, if he was at a bigger price, you'd be more than inclined to have at least a place bet on him.
Oh, underneath for sure. If he was 8-1, 10-1, I'd be like, okay, he's an up and comer, right? But for Midnight Bourbon to be 9-2 and the fourth favorite, Midnight Bourbon's run very well. Like that second in the Preakness was impressive. His sixth in the Kentucky Derby isn't that bad in comparison when you look at all the trouble he got into. And Midnight Bourbon has Paco Lopez, who's a super aggressive rider. He's won the Monmouth Jockey Colony Cup multiple times. He knows how to win races here. So I just think it's an interesting play, and watching he runs off the page and wins. But I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it's gonna happen.
So final thought then, we both going Hot Rod Charlie in the Haskell.
Yep, Hot Rod Charlie, and then the two other classes of the field, second and third. I think it's going to be short prices, but at the same time, we'll actually see a Grade 1 winner who I think really deserves it and who can be a major player later in the year.
I would actually agree with Hot Rod Charlie 100%, but I've just got a sneaky feeling that Following Sea might surprise people, so I might stick him second in that bet just to get an extra bit of value.
Okay.
So moving on, we're going to go to the United Nations Stakes at Monmouth Park again, another Grade 1, over 1 at 3/8 miles. Michael Mack has got a pretty decent record in this. He's won the two of the last 4. I actually quite fancy his winner in this one. I don't know how you feel about this one.
So similar to last week, I'm going to toss the favorite. I hate's a strong word. I really don't like Arklow. Every time I bet on this horse to win, he loses for me, and every time I fade him, he wins. Don't get me wrong, he's a great horse, but now he's 7 years old. I think that there's going to be rain in the area for the next couple of days. I think the grass is going to be a little soft because we're now moving to the turf. And I am going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to take Winters back, Irish bred, Godolphin, Charlie Appleby. I just think them shipping him over here and him picking up Todd Pletcher and David Cohen, 8-1 to me is a very good price on a horse where, I realistically think that, hey, his first time over at Monmouth in the Grade 3 by 1.5, just sets him up for a second really big race, in my opinion. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with you. Like Arklow, I cannot see him winning this. Like he probably had his chance last year, and I think it was his 6th in the end.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was probably his opportunity to win this. Out of the two, I think the other two favourites, Trip Hoover, I think, is more deserving if you're going to back one of the shorter price ones. I think he was unlucky in the Manhattan, and he won the Fort Marcy earlier in the season. I think if you're going to bet on a short price in this one, it'll be him. But I'm going to go with a much bigger price one. I like Glyn County, but this is again just going off the Tyler. I'm going to proper butcher his name. Gaffaline.
Gaffaleone, not bad, not
Not
bad.
bad. I think he's going to be a bit of an X factor in this race, and that partnership with Maker, who's got such a good record in this race as well. I think there's something in this. Like, I feel like Maker's probably targeted this race from like a very early point. They've progressed him nicely through allowances and optional conditionings races in New York and Churchill Downs. Obviously, I think he's won one of his last two, but I think there's definitely more to come. And I think it shows the trainer's confidence in this horse that he's taken into this race, and there must be something there. If you're not going to bet on him to win it, I think at least a place bet is a decent shout, because he's not going to bring him in for no reason unless he has a fighting chance.
And not only that, but yet again, not being able to use the whips really opens things up. And turf racing, like, does lend itself to, big prices at times. I like Winners Back at 8-1, but like on second look, I think Tribute Haven from coming over the French shipper, it's hard to say no to those connections and those past histories. Like Chad Brown, he's a turf wizard. Flavian Pratt, shipping in from Santa Anita, is winning a ton of races in New York, New Jersey, all over the place lately. I really do think, to your point, if you're going to back someone who's going to be a little shorter, yeah, a little unlucky in the Manhattan, but also going up against domestic spending, like, and Gouffo, right? Very good horses. I do think that Tribute Haven is the best choice if you're going to go on the little chalkier side.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. So, any closing thoughts on that one, or you're happy to move on?
I just want to say one thing about Arklow. I get it, man. He's won. He came back and won a Grade 3 this year. He won his last two at Del Mar, at Churchill Downs. They're 1.5 miles. You think, oh, he's shortening up, going only 1 3/8 miles. I'm not saying this horse can't win, but morning line odds of 8-5 that are probably going to drop. Arklow is going to be 4-5, and there's no way. I just don't think he's a 4-5 type horse, especially in a field that is this good.
Yeah.
So
there you go. You had your bit of a go on him then.
for sure. We have a really love-hate relationship, and there hasn't been love in a long time.
So moving on to the Diana Stakes then, over at Saratoga, Grade 1, over 1 1/8 miles again on the turf, this time for the fillies and the mares. Chad Brown's record in this race, man, it is something, isn't it? The last 5 winners have all been his. Do you fancy one of his this time around, or?
I don't. And listen, I get it. Like, he's got a lot of runners in here, but I really do think Summer Romance is a good player here. Lamista, probably going to be, the favorite and probably taking on heavier money. I want to get your thoughts first. I don't know where to put my money in this race. There's a lot of good horses, but no great horses. What did you think?
No, I totally agree. I think we've got probably half the field, which is good, that have the ability to be more. I'm hoping that we're going to find out a lot more about them this year. I thought Summer Romance was going to absolutely tear it up last time out in the just the game stakes.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought she was that was hers. And then she just didn't win it. I'm still going to support this week because I think that she is the star in this field. I could put it down to bad luck maybe last time against the stablemate, and I think either way there's going to be a Charlie Appleby winner here. I just think it's going to be Summer Romance 1, Alika 2. Obviously, Summer Romance has won graded races in Ireland as well, and one in Epsom, but I think she just needs to get off the board in the States now, and this looks to be a pretty perfect opportunity to do it.
Yeah, and you know what? On second look, I'm kind of with you, and I kind of like the price better too. Like, hate to say it, but shipping over and taking that second might have been good for the bettors who were coming and getting her the second time around, right?
Oh,
So,
100%.
and believe it or not, that was actually a good day for me. That Belmont day, I hit the pick five. It paid quite nicely, and I did have Altica, but I also had Summer Romance in that race, so I wasn't too upset when Mike Smith came flying down the lane to win. But in all honesty, I like the outside horses as well. Pocket Square, the two, Chad Brown, John Velasquez, just hasn't been consistent enough. I mean, great connections, Jodmont backing him, and he is four. I just don't see it. I think it's a Summer Romance, Eltica, and then you want to squeeze in a Chad Brown, Irad Ortiz horse. I don't blame you one bit. I think Irad Ortiz Jr. is the best jockey in America, and I get the favoritism. So realistically, I don't hate Summer Romance at 4-1, but I am looking like maybe you go 6, 7, 8 exact to trifecta box here. Really like trying to figure out who else can run well. I'm just not seeing it.
No, I totally agree. But I think Summer Romance is my pick in there. While we're here, like I might as well get your thoughts on the big story from New York this week about Baffert's court case where his suspension was nullified, which has obviously allowed him to enter horses at Saratoga this weekend and for the foreseeable, I guess. But I was reading through it last night, and I think it was Baffert's attorney said that there was a positive relationship between Baffert and the NYRA in the past, and that they hope that it could be rebuilt. I mean, are we past that now, or do you think that could still be rebuilt?
I I honestly think we're past it. And I understand that, listen, who would have thought that, we'd be talking about horse racing lawsuits from Kentucky Derby news, 3 months later. But the fact that, the NYRA, and I get it, it's nuanced, but Bob Baffert has never had a positive test in New York. He's never had a positive test for anything. He's never had his horses DQ'd for any sort of post-race drug or over limit, usage. In all honesty, they did not give him due process. I agree with what the judges decided on. They just said, "Hey, in another jurisdiction, you tested positive. You're making the sport look really bad, and we're basically going to say, if I think they did it to make sure that there wasn't going to be a tainted Triple Crown in play, right?
Mm.
So he has the Derby winner, the Preakness, which don't even get me started. Maryland, they'll let anyone run it at any time. And Monmouth, the same thing. They said, please, Bob Baffert, bring your horses here. I think New York came in and said, man, if this horse, wins the Preakness and then comes into the Belmont, uh, we don't want him running. So let's just put something out there as soon as we can. And it's going to be interesting if Baffert does ship or continues to ship. I feel like he's putting his feet in the ground and kind of saying, yes, we did something wrong, but it's not that bad, right? Like we broke the rules, but we broke the rules just a little bit. And it's going to be interesting to me because I think he might ship some of his horses into some of the bigger races, but I don't think he shows up. I think he stays home in California, lets his assistant trainers do everything, and when there's the eyes of the sports is in New York with TV coverage and stories, he won't be there for it.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting one. It feels like it's going to get very, very messy, and it's going to continue just to roll on and on and on, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really going to be something, and I mean, I'm hoping that we figure out who won the Kentucky Derby first and foremost, and just so we can, like every year we get the glasses of who all the Kentucky Derby winners are, and yeah, the names blank, but the names have been blank for some time. We're waiting to see what's gonna happen there for sure, for
Hopefully,
sure.
we won't have to wait too much longer. But
Yeah,
how long we've already waited? What, 2 months?
yeah, it's already been 2 months. Maybe by next year's Kentucky Derby, we'll know who won last year's Kentucky Derby.
Oh, if we're lucky. Yeah, so rolling on to the last race, we're going to talk about the San Diego Handicap at Del Mar. It's a grade 2, and it's over 1 1/16 miles. I think this is a really difficult one, to be fair. Yeah, I like Royal Ship and Mimosa, and I think it's quite difficult. Who do you like in this one?
So I'm with you on Royal Ship and Mimosa, but I'm actually going to go to the one Rushy, Umberto Rispoli. I do think this is a very tough race. I wish there was more of a standout, but I do think Royal Ship is going to take a lot of money. And understandable, right?
Mm.
Richard Mandela, Mike Smith, very well-known names, especially on the West Coast. Momosa, Mike Maker, who doesn't ship a lot out to California. I mean, back-to-back impressive wins. But I don't really like Ramon Vasquez very much. I mean, just not my cup of tea, especially when I can have someone like an Umberto Rispoli or a Mike Smith on another horse. But at the same time, I'm kind of with you. I think a lot of money goes to the 4 Royal Ship. I think a lot of money goes to the 6 Mimosa. And in all honesty, it could be a 2-horse race all the way around. But I'm going to take some local connections. I'm going to take Michael McCarthy and Umberto Rispoli for a mild upset. I looked 2 back in April at the Oaklawn Mile where he took second by a nose to By My Standards, and he was favored in that race. I look at some other races where he's up against some of the best, and I think, I think Saturday could be his come out show and say, hey, I'm still here, I'm still back, I can run well.
Yeah. The only thing that puts me off with Royal Ship is how short he actually is, and he's going to be shorter come tomorrow as well. But his form is probably the standout in this field. Obviously, he won the California Stakes in April. He was unlucky in the Hollywood Gold Cup because Country Gram had come out on top, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
I think my money will probably be on Mimosa purely because it's a slightly bigger price.
Yeah.
And I like the way that he's gradually moved back to the graded company, like over the last couple of years. After he's got 2 seconds in the allowances most recently,
Mm-hmm.
and then you obviously won the Steve Sexton as well. I it'd be a nice story if Mimosa comes out on top in this, but I think it is such a difficult one.
Yeah, it is. I think this is one where you can get some decent money playing the exotics. I do only think there's 3 horses in this race. So if you like those 3 horses, you want to put them in an exacta box, you want to put them in a trifecta box, maybe you get some nice payouts. And then I'd say one to watch out for, only because they seem to just be winning lately and maybe figured it out. Tripoli, the 8 horse, back-to-back wins. I know that they're at the allowance level. I know one of them was on turf, but if there's not a lot of speed in this race, maybe Tripoli goes to the lead. Probably doesn't hang on to win, but could be played underneath second and third, and I think that could help in the exotic payouts.
Yeah. So rounding off then, what would be your pick of the weekend? The pick of bets.
Pick of the weekend. I'm gonna go with an ice cold trifecta. I'm going to put Hot Rod Charlie on top of Mandaloon and Midnight Bourbon. And what I'll probably do is I'll key it. I'll put Hot Rod on top, those 2 for second, and then I'll include that Seahorse in third with the other 2 just in case. But I'll probably play that for some maybe $10. It'll be a $60 bet, something like that. I think it's going to be chalky, but I'm really excited for that race.
Yeah. I think mine would be Lynn County. I'm just pretty high up on him. I think there's definitely something there that the connections have seen, and at 20-1, like it's a no-brainer, really.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you there. I did not see it in that horse, but if you're so high on them, I'll bet them to win play show across the board for sure.
As long as I'm not getting an angry message on the night.
Mm-hmm.
And well, that's it for our horse racing look at this weekend's racing then. Thank you for joining us, and we will be back next Friday. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the Sports 2.0 network on YouTube, and follow the podcast on Spotify and any other podcast where you get podcasts from. From me, Alex and Ace, it's goodbye.
Thank you.